We visited Ushuaia, Argentina, commonly called the end of the world. This is the southernmost tip in South America. So what's it like there? What is there to do? Stick with us and we'll tell you coming right up.
Hi, I'm Migs.
And I'm Nate.
And we love Ushuaia.
So Ushuaia is like a small downtown surrounded by mountains. It is a cruise destination as well, so there's a cruise port, and that's where the bulk of the tourist shops and tourist center is located. And then there are residential areas outside of that downtown. We stayed in the residential area, about a 20-minute walk in an Airbnb from the downtown center, and that was great for us. We still had some bakeries that we enjoyed walking to in the neighborhood, but we were out of sort of the main tourist area, but easily could walk there if we wanted to.
Something that was surprising to me was how familiar it felt. It felt like most mountain towns that we've been to. It felt like North Conway, New Hampshire. You had the REI stores, the ski outdoor gear store, you had the chocolate shop. So it was very familiar if you've been to any sort of mountain town before. We went in January and the weather was, for us, pretty good because we're from New England, we're used to cold weather. So it was low 40s Fahrenheit to high 50s. And my favorite part was how much daylight. It was their summer. So we had up to like 18 hours of daylight. Definitely bring a scarf, and I always want to call it a baklava. What is it?
Balaclava?
That. Bring one of those that covers your face because it does get pretty windy. It did rain periodically, like sporadically throughout the day. So we found it was best to just have our rain gear with us at all times.
You can have a good view of the mountains from downtown or really anywhere in Ushuaia, but don't stop there. Go out and hike in those mountains if that's something that you're into. It's easy to get to. The national park is a fairly short ride away, but we actually didn't even go to the national park. We found plenty of hikes outside of the national park itself, which you do have to pay to get into. We took an Uber just to like a 20 or 30-minute ride outside the city to get to the hikes that we went to. Two of our favorites were Laguna Hikes and Laguna Esmeralda, which are two trailheads very near to each other on opposite sides of the main road. And kind of 3 to 5 mile hikes, fairly moderate in difficulty, but really beautiful.
Yeah, I will say they were very muddy. So just be prepared. The hike itself is just by far the most beautiful hikes I've ever done in my life. Unexpected that every turn you take, it just gets more and more beautiful. It was just so overwhelming. I think that's what it was. It was like overwhelmingly beautiful for me. And we did take, some video and some pictures, but nothing will do it justice other than being there.
Yeah, Laguna Esmeralda is the more common hike that people will do. That's, I think, 5.5 miles, but it's an actually easier hike to do. A little bit more gradual of an ascent. The trail is a little more taken care of. So most people will do that one. You'll encounter more people there. Laguna Hikes is shorter. It's less than 3 miles, I believe, but it's a little more steep in sections. And when you get above the tree line, that one was a little bit harder to walk because it was muddy and higher winds in that area too once you get into the open air. But fewer people, so that was nice to kind of experience a little more privately.
And there's so many different hike options too. So if you're an experienced hiker or if you're a novice, you can definitely find something to do. You can find ones for family, for dogs.
Now, as far as money in Ushuaia, we found it very easy to use our credit cards everywhere. It was pretty well set up for tourists. Because the cruise lines do stop in Ushuaia, it's easily set up for tourists to use credit cards. And we also saw some people pay in US dollars. There were more Americans here, I think, visiting than many other places that we visited in Argentina. You were able to pay by credit card and also put your tip on your credit card bill very easily. So it was probably the most convenient in terms of credit card acceptance rate.
A couple of times we saw people paying with dollars and getting Argentinian pesos back. And this was the first time that I had seen, and actually the only time in our 3 months that we were in Argentina. They would give the guests the rate beforehand, and the guests just did that to get pesos instead of going to wait in a Western Union line. It just shows how accommodating Ushuaia is to tourism.
What was the food like in Ushuaia? I think it was kind of a rustic menu option, right, for the most part, like comfort food because of the cool weather, I believe. So the food was great. There were some great options. I think pasta was a common option and burgers.
We went to the supermarket and most of the produce was not in the best condition, but you had a lot of frozen options.
And because of the availability of produce and certain items, there can be a higher cost on the menu for certain things at restaurants. And also the availability may vary. So some things might be out of stock. So that may be an impact from, just the availability of food, from being imported.
I love Ushuaia. Like, out of all the places that we've been to, it's definitely going to be top of the list for me. The moment you land, you start seeing mountains, then you see the ocean, you see penguins. There's just so much beauty in this city. And everyone was just so nice.
Yeah.
A lot of hikers, a lot of families, and it just felt like a great place to be. And because we stayed in a residential area, we really got to experience that. We had a bakery that we loved going to. There were all these cute little local spots. It was just so peaceful, tranquil, and just beautiful.
Yeah, and there was also that brewery that we went to after one of the hikes. So there's a brewery being run out of somebody's house. So it does show up on Google Maps as a business, but it really was just on someone's front porch or living room that was converted into a business, and they had a keg with a tap and a very minimal menu, but a lot of hikers would just gather there after their hikes in the local trails nearby, have a few beers and just kind of meet each other and talk, and just very friendly and welcoming.
Yeah, it was just such a beautiful experience. Everything from the hikes, the people, the sky. The sky was something like we've never seen before. I have so many pictures of Nate taking pictures of the sky.
Yeah.
He was obsessed, and I don't blame you. It was just beautiful.
And we had a great view from our Airbnb. So, we stayed in the residential area, but we were a couple floors up, and that gave us this great view of the mountains. And the mountains would, change every day. The clouds would come in and roll off, and then there would be snow in the mountains. A lot of mornings there would be snow overnight, which would then melt by the end of the day. So it was just constantly changing and always beautiful. Ushuaia in particular was just the least crowded of all the places in Patagonia. So for me, that's one of the things that made it special, was its natural beauty, but also it kind of felt like we had discovered something that wasn't overpopulated with tourists yet. So if you went on a cruise ship, you'd probably get a different experience because you're going with a lot of other people at the same time. And having a longer stay where we were able to enjoy it on our own just made it feel a little bit different.
Partly because Ushuaia is a port town where crews stop. There are so many different tours that you can take. There's a main tourism office, and across from there are probably 20 different, I'm gonna call them huts. They're little studio, feel like one room tourist offices where you can book your tours. There are tours of the Beagle Channel that you can take. There are tours to go see the penguins. You name it, they have it as a tour.
There's the lighthouse.
Yes. We typically don't do tours, but we had heard a lot of people tell us about the penguins. A couple of people tell us, go see the penguins, go see the penguins. So we did book that tour. There's one tour that you can actually get off one of the islands and go walk around the penguins. There's some that bring you up to the island. Then there's some that you're a little bit further away. But we ended up choosing one that brought us basically up to the island, and it was a ride. It's like an hour to go to the point that you get on this, I'm gonna call it a boat, but it really was a raft.
Yeah, it was an hour and a half ride, and that ride is fairly desolate on its own. And then when we got there, it was a really small little port where we got onto a tiny little, a little more than a dinghy, basically. And then it was another, 30, 45-minute boat ride out to see the penguins. I think we had, maybe a half hour or 20-minute stop while we took pictures and watched the penguins for a while. And then we turned around. We actually turned around early and made the return trip back because the seas were getting rough.
Yeah, what a ride back. It was a bumping. We were jumping. We were up in the air and then down and hitting the water. I am not exaggerating. They actually canceled the boat rides after hours, and there were these big boats, actual boats, that had docked where we were going because the seas were too rough for them.
Yeah.
And here we were in our little raft, boom, boom. It was a lot.
Yeah, I think maybe our driver when we got back was like, "You guys were out there?" Like, I think we were the only ones left that hadn't come back yet, and so yeah, it was pretty rough. And I was enjoying it for the most part until I saw that the captain was a little worried. So I guess I should have been worried too, but I was enjoying it.
We actually ended up picking up a fisherman who was
Yeah.
on the side of one of the islands because he couldn't get back.
But all that to say, it's a long journey for a short amount of time with the penguins. So be prepared for that. But it was a great experience being able to see them sort of in their habitat, take a lot of pictures, a lot of cute videos. It was fun to do.
They have the cutest walk. It's just a wobble, wobble, wobble. Yeah, penguins have the cutest walk. Like, I can never get tired of seeing them walk.
We were close enough as it was. Like you said, we got right up to shore, and they were 5-10 feet away from us. So it really was a close-up encounter, even without getting off and walking around. Definitely try to book one of these for the earlier part of your trip, because if things do get rescheduled, you want to have that opportunity to make the trip on another day, because they do cancel due to bad weather or reschedule your tour if the weather doesn't cooperate.
We hope that visiting Ushuaia is on your list, and if it wasn't before, we hope it is now. Thank you so much for watching our video. Please comment below which scenes you liked or the ones that we shared, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. It really helps support our channel.
And if you do have an interest in the outdoor side of Ushuaia, we do have a few videos coming up that'll give you more details on the hikes that we did and take you along with us on those hikes. So if you want more information, look for those videos as well. So what is there to do there? What is that face?
My beer. You should have a beer right before you go.
Looked like you needed to have a diaper on.
Hi, babe.
We visited. Maybe I need a